Good evening, everyone. I'm Councillor Tony Lukey, Councillor for Osterley and Spring Grove Ward. Welcome to St John's Centre for a very big, well-attended Hounslow South, Isleworth and Osterley and Spring Grove Ward area forum. This is one of the 7 area forums in the borough, meeting around these last couple of weeks. There's the last one tomorrow until the next ones turn up in the summer. I think we've got a decent agenda tonight, one which will inform. We've got outside speakers come to explain a bit of stuff. Can I just, I'm going to sit down in a sec, but may I introduce my colleagues from right to left, if they can tell us who they are and where they represent.
Councillor Tom Bruce, Hounslow South Ward.
Hello, that's loud. I'm from Austin Spring Grove Ward.
Sue Sampson, Isleworth Ward.
Salman Shaheen, Isleworth Ward.
John Shadturp, Isleworth Ward.
Karen Smith, Hounslow South Ward.
Lovely, thank you. Right, we've got apologies for apologies for absence, please. Oh, sorry, Jenny Hazel, who's the committee administrator.
No. So we've just got apologies tonight.
Councillor Saya Raza for tonight.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Have we got any declarations of interest or any other communication from members here on any agenda items? Good. Okay, let's start. We've got gentlemen. Take those. Take those mics if you like. Just yourself, is it? No. Cohen and Gareth. They're all right. Is that okay with these gentlemen remain seated and speak to the microphones? This is Conor Loughney and Gareth Bennett from Thames Water. They've come to talk about we're calling it the Thames, the Teddington Tunnel, but they've got some other proper description for it, and they're here because at the last area forum meeting, a couple of residents from Isleworth discussed this, raised this for discussion to talk, and we didn't know much about it at the time. So we invited these 2 gentlemen from Thames Water to explain. So they've got we've got them till about 5 to 8. So a brief presentation and then answer some questions from residents. Is that all right, gentlemen? All right, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you for having us. Okay. So my name's Conor Loughney. I'm the engagement manager for the Teddington Direct River Abstraction Scheme, and this is my colleague.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Gareth Bennett, and I am the town planning lead for the same project. So I oversee all of the town planning consent work that the project is engaged with at the moment.
Okay, I'll get a bit closer to the mic. Apologies for the cold sound that's coming out of my mouth this evening. But we're here, as Councillor Lukey has said, to give you hopefully a sort of level understanding of the scheme and the project that we're proposing at the moment. But also just to recognise that we are from the Teddington project team specifically. So unfortunately, we won't be able to answer questions around leakage, water usage, smart meters, etc. We're here predominantly just to discuss the Teddington DRA project, which you may or may not have heard about. Thank you. So the Teddington Direct River Abstraction Project. Essentially, we face an uncertain time in terms of climate change, and a byproduct of that is water scarcity. So we are part of the southeast, and as a region, work has taken place to map out the amount of water available in the southeast of England and how best to harness that water, save that water, store that water, use that water. And works happen with other water companies within the southeast to come up with a strategic plan on how to address this for the future, bearing in mind population growth and climate change. And as part of that planning, one of the options that has come out of the plan is the Teddington scheme. Sorry, okay, sure, thank you. Predominantly, this is looking at securing a water supply for Londoners. As you can imagine, London is very reliant on a secure water supply, both for households, drinking water, amenities, but also for our hospitals and industry, as well as the economy. And so it's very important that more is done to ensure that water is safeguarded. This project sits within a plan that also looks at reducing leakage, as well as smart metering, also looking at personal usage and ensuring that we as customers also try and reduce the amount that we use. And then sitting within that, then we are also looking at new water supplies. So this is part of that suite of planning. What this plan also does is tries to consider environmental impacts. You may be aware that lots of the water from the southeast comes from groundwater aquifers. We store water in reservoirs, but we also have to abstract water from rivers and streams. And some of those streams are particularly sensitive, chalk streams, for instance. And so there has been a lot of work to look at how we can reduce abstracting from those chalk streams further away from London, but inevitably they feed into our water supply, and we want to protect the environment, particularly in those sensitive locations and renowned locations in the world. So this scheme, as I said, sits within a suite of options. Thames Water have put two forward, and there are a number of the water companies that we're working with who have also got their own options. The other option that Thames Water is putting forward is Cesro, which is a large reservoir that's being proposed to be built in the Oxfordshire region. Excuse me. This is we will supply all of these graphics are available online, and we will share these with the council afterwards. But this is just a high-level overview of where we are in terms of the scheme. So we're still at a very early stage. We're nowhere near submitting a planning application at the moment. We're very much at the assessment phase of this project, as well as the design. So you'll see that in early 2024, we are preparing our environmental impact assessment scope, which looks at all of the things that we have to factor in our environmental assessments, and we will be liaising with the local planning authorities to shape those plans and making sure that we have the right scope for this project. Just to note also that we had our non-stat consultation just before Christmas. So at the moment we're reviewing the responses to that consultation, and we hope to come out later this year with our response, taking into consideration everyone's views, and we'll provide an update on that probably in the summer of this year. And with that will come further engagement activities. We then look to 2026, where we will submit a planning application. On that, just before Christmas, we were granted national significance by the Secretary of State, which means that we absolutely continue to engage with the local community and with the local planning authorities and councillors. But ultimately, the big difference there is that the Secretary of State is the overall decision maker in terms of whether this project goes ahead or not. It's something called a DCO, Development Consent Order, and that's one part of a very large planning process, but Gareth will be able to answer any questions around that later on this evening. Okay, so this is the scheme overview, and essentially the main aim of the project is to abstract 75 megalitres of water in the freshwater Thames just above Teddington Weir, and then replace that with tertiary treated water from Teddington, tertiary treated effluent. To build this scheme, what we will do is we will add a connection to a pre-existing pipeline called the Thamesley Tunnel. That will be just before Teddington, just after Teddington Weir, before if you're from this side actually, and it will take the river water up to northeast London to the reservoirs in and around Walthamstow. Any water that we abstract, we then need to replace. So we will replace it with tertiary treated water from Mogden Sewage Treatment Works. Now, currently there isn't a tertiary treatment plant at Mogden, so part of this scheme would be to build a tertiary treatment facility at that at Mogden. Essentially, tertiary treated water is water treated to a higher standard than is already permitted to be discharged into the river. One of the commitments, though, from this scheme is to ensure that the water quality within the river is not deteriorated because of this project. And also just to note that there is no physical way that raw sewage can enter the river through this project. There is no physical pipeline that would enable that to happen. So just to reassure you in that. Here are some visualizations of, apologies, I didn't mention that there would be a new pipeline built from Mogden to the River Thames, about 4.5 kilometres long, buried some 30 metres below the surface within the London clay, and that would be pipe jacked, constructed through a process called pipe jacking. This is a visualization on the bottom left here of what the tertiary treatment plant may look like. It sits above some of the storm tanks already at Mogden, so it's building infrastructure on top of infrastructure, but below the tree line, so shouldn't be visible from outside of the plant. A number of shafts will be needed along the pipeline for access, so that people can go into the pipeline if needs be for maintenance purposes. But once the shafts are constructed, all that should be left is something that similar to a standard manhole cover. There will also be some infrastructure that will be left on the riverbank, and some visualizations of that are found here. So on the top right-hand side is the abstraction point. Essentially, that's where the water will be taken from the river and pumped into the Thamesley Tunnel, which will take it up to Walthamstow. The reason why we have those sort of large grills on the right-hand side, a lot of that is stipulated by the Environmental Agency in terms of fish screens, so making sure that we protect any of the fish within the river and ensure that we don't essentially suck them out of the river. So it's there to protect the wildlife. And then on the bottom left, you'll see the outfall. So that's where, this is all early stages of design, so it may not look exactly like this, but that's indicative of where the water will come out. Okay, in terms of the construction overall, it's going to take about 3.5 years for the whole project to be built. Predominantly, that work will take place within Mogden itself and down at the river. And then in between, we'll have the pipeline being built. So there will be a number of shaft locations, which we'll go on to now. Do you need me to? Yeah, okay. Just to say that each shaft will take about 6 months to build. I'm going to hand over to Gareth very quickly, unless there are any questions at this point, mindful of time.
See if there are any questions that come up if there are any that are Gareth's, then he can pick up on them, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Councillors, any questions? Councillor Salman Shaheen and Councillor John Shredder.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming. I know we met online just before Christmas, and we were imploring that you did do some engagement in Isleworth, of which I would see that this is the first. I mean, I've got a couple of questions. First question really is, when we met, you did commit to doing an Isleworth-specific consultation event as well as this area forum. Are you still willing to do that? Are you still planning on bringing that forward, a consultation event, which the council's very happy to support and communicate? That's the first question. Second question, and I mean, for the record, I have put in, and my fellow councillors also, you know, we've got to be honest, are opposed to the scheme for a number of reasons and have submitted to your consultation opposition. However, I mean, one thing that, I mean, I'd like really to ascertain is you say you've applied to the Secretary of State and had it granted that that you would get permission from the Secretary of State, which means, I assume, that if Hounslow Council, if Richmond Council, as the planning authorities where the works are taking place, were to oppose, and Richmond has already, were to oppose, that the decision would ultimately be taken out of our hands.
So in terms of consultation events, very happy to commit to carrying future consultation events in Hounslow. Unfortunately, we aren't in a period of consultation at the moment, but as we plan our statutory consultation, which is due to take place in the winter of 24-25, very happy to commit to holding a consultation event within the borough.
Yeah, thanks very much. As Councillor Shane said, the three Isleworth councils have been on record of writing and opposing to it, but nonetheless, we still want to find out more about it. And a couple of questions. Firstly, I'm still not clear, and we had a discussion, if you recall, at Mogden about it, what tertiary means in terms of, is it the quality of water that goes in as compared to what Mogden put in now, or is it the quality that goes in compared to something else? Will it be better or worse than the stuff that flows out of Mogden at the moment, having been treated? That's the first question. And the second question, there's a strong rumour that there may be a new government fairly soon, and if there is, and we have a new Secretary of State, and this plan perhaps doesn't go ahead, what's plan B? There is an alternative to this, I understand. Could you just give us a clue what that might be?
Are we okay to just cover off Councillor Shaheen's question first? Is that right? About the DCO? Yeah, sure.
Okay. and the issues that matter to you. And that is presented to the panel, and it sets out what your views are. So, yes, the decision is taken away in terms of the Secretary of State does it, but no, the involvement doesn't stop. It should continue throughout the whole process through to the back of 2027. One last thing, as with planning conditions for a normal Town and Country Planning Act consent, there are what's called DCO requirements attached to the eventual order, and they are handled by the respective borough councils as what's known as the relevant planning authority. So the discharge of those comes back to yourselves. I'm going to jump to the point about tertiary treatment, if you're happy for me to. The way that a wastewater treatment works operates per standard is to treat wastewater through 2 stages: primary settlement, primary treatment, and then secondary treatment, which includes settling out all of the solid matters and clarifying the wastewater to a point that it has a final settlement phase and then it can be released to the environment. And that is done strictly under a permit, under a regulated process, and that's what's coming out at the moment at Isleworth through Mogden day by day. That is the permitted process, and it's the same at every sewage treatment works across the capital and also throughout England and the wider UK. What tertiary treatment does is take that final effluent, which is good to go, in simple terms, into the receiving riverine environment and puts it through another stage of treatment. So you would take in anything else that's left there that is generally acceptable in the river environment, but removing all of that as much as we can. So it's a further stage of treatment. It's something you do where perhaps you have a discharge that is going to a location that doesn't currently have any discharge already. It's a totally different location for you to place that material in the water. Is it better than what comes out of Mogden at the moment? I think the short, simple answer is yes, it would be. There would be a slight, potentially measurable improvement as to what's coming out when we're running the facility at that time. But that is not to say what's coming out of Mogden is unacceptable when it's operating through its discharge permit. That is already accepted and working in the right way anyway. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the step up or the change there. Beyond that, I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to be able to go much further. I've forgotten the third question.
Which on the plan B, sorry?
Yeah, plan B. Then we'll go over to the residents.
So there is an alternative to Teddington DRA, which is being worked up to a similar scope in terms of our understanding, impacts, etc. And that scheme is called Beckton, the Beckton scheme. But there are a number of other alternatives as well that sit within the suite of options, and so we would have to look at where where does that sort of hammer go down as to what the alternative is. So I wouldn't like to commit to say what the exact one is, but there are alternatives that have been looked at, but this is the best value option at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Gentleman there, you'll get a mic. You'll get a mic.
Thank you.
What's your name? What's your name? Where are you from?
In which order?
The order I asked them. How about that?
I'm from Isleworth. My name is Martin Langley. I live here. Thank you for a most plausible presentation. In particular, I was interested in your euphemistic use of the term tertiary treated sewage. Now, as you're probably aware, the whole proposal has generated a considerable amount of local opposition, as you'll see from the crowd that we have here. Personally, I'm very curious as to why, when you were thinking of building a tunnel in the first place, why you made one which went upstream, which maximizes the length of river affected by the tertiary treated material, when you could have just as easily taken it downstream and connected with the new sewer which is coming on stream next year. So, I mean, you might like to consider that, but also, you see, there are so many people who are so concerned about this that if you're not very careful, you're going to be up against judicial review proceedings at practically every stage of the process, which I'm sure you would want to avoid if you possibly could. Good. So essentially, that's all I've got to say about it, is that you could mitigate the problems caused by it with a bit of redesign, it would seem. And I'd like you to comment on that observation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's take a couple more questions. Lady in front of Martin, and the gentleman at the back there with his hand up there. Yeah, okay. And then there's a gentleman over there as well. Okay.
Good evening, Mary Martin. I live in Isleworth. On the diagrams that you've shown this evening, which are very simple diagrams, you haven't actually named any roads, any parkways, any green land. There are no named locations on there. And I'd like to know when you are going to name the streets, the roads, the parks on your diagrams so people have a better understanding. Thank you.
Gentleman at the back, then the gentleman here. Sorry, I didn't see your hand up earlier. Well, welcome.
Can you raise your hand again?
You're first. I'm in the chair. You go first. I chose you.
Sorry, Tony. Will Flower, user of Isleworth Swimming Leisure Centre, resident of St Margaret's, and I'm here from Save Our Lands and the River. My questions are, firstly, Thames Water. You held a series of public information events in the winter. What percentage of people who responded to your public information events supported the proposal? What percentage supported? And if you don't have an answer, when are you going to publish that? Secondly, as the lady said before me, why have you not included in your presentation today the impact on Ivy Bridge Retail Park and the impact that it will have on the local businesses? Are people going to lose their jobs? What impact will you mitigate for if this scheme goes ahead?
Okay, thank you. And then yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Barry Edwards from Isleworth. I'm a little bit surprised that you actually need to have any abstraction or any treatment of the sewage. Why don't you just connect Mogden directly to the Lee tunnel without the need for additional paraphernalia at Mogden Sewage Works at all? Because the works itself is already completely overdeveloped and it has its own serious problems. So you could just connect the outfall to the tunnel without the need to disrupt the Thames and produce the same amount of water without the treatment, and you could just treat it in the Lee Valley when it gets there.
Okay, look, there's one more hand up there, and that's it, and then we'll get the gentleman to answer the questions, and then we'll move on to the next item, if that's okay, but that's how it's going to be. Yeah.
I live on the border of Richmond and Isleworth. We actually pay our rates to Hounslow. But anyway, be that as it may, what I would like to know is there has been no mention of the disruption that is going to be caused by the sinking of the shafts, one of which affects a green space on quite close to the border of Hounslow and Richmond, Moormead Park, which is heavily used by several local schools in the area. And for I don't know how many months that is going to be out of action because of the heavy machinery that's going to be required for the sinking of that shaft. So could we have some information about that, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we've got questions on why not closer to the tunnel that's going down to Beckton from Fulham. Which roads in particular? What are the results of the previous consultations you had? What on disruption and I can't read my writing, but someone might remind me what the why abstraction at all? And how many jobs? All right, and how many jobs will be lost? Thank you.
I'll give it a go. I'll try and use some of these slides, which I don't think we'll be presenting, but hopefully we can talk around some of them anyway. So picking up the first point that the gentleman raised in terms of why not further down the river, for example, the key factor here is, hopefully you can hear me, is that we need to abstract raw water, river water. We can't abstract it in the tidal section where it is brackish. It has to be fresh. That is because the water that's going into the supply system is all fresh water, whether it's groundwater source or whether it's being abstracted from rivers themselves. It is all coming from fresh water, not brackish water, i.e. the tidal estuarine section below the weir. So we can't abstract from that section. One of the points Connor made is that where we abstract 75 megalitres of water a day, we will obviously reduce the flow in that section. So that has to be in the fresh water section. When we put water in to replace it, it's got to be close by to keep the levels broadly in balance. If we discharge the treated water further downstream beyond the weir, we would not be able to achieve that outcome. And that's one of the kind of fixed design criteria we will have to work to with the Environment Agency. So that is the reason we are above the weir, partly because of the raw water demand, the need to abstract river water, and to balance at the point that we abstract. That's why we're there. I can see you're about to say something else.
If the water...
Hang on, sorry. Let the man answer.
Discharge is as clean as you say it is.
All right.
Why can't you use that instead of nicking our river water?
He's not come to their answer yet. So let's or have you?
I didn't quite catch the question.
All right, doesn't matter. Look, can I just say that this isn't the be-all and end-all of consultation. You've got the three ward councillors from Isleworth Ward who are taking the lead on this. We'll be picking up on this again later. This is, if you like, this is an introduction to the scheme for us locally. If you can bear with us, because we've got the big agenda for tonight. Here, I'll protect our river. Is that okay? Sorry, Martin. Is that right? Thank you.
So, okay. So Ivy Bridge. I think I've got that in the right order. The gentleman at the back asked what will happen in terms of Ivy Bridge. I'll let Connor answer in terms of the consultation, if that's okay. In terms of Ivy Bridge, we would need to occupy, during construction, we think approximately half of the car park outside of the retail centre. How would we manage car parking so everyone can get in? Well, we haven't got that far yet. We haven't worked out precisely what the arrangements would need to be to make sure everyone can still get to the shops in the numbers that you visit that car park at the moment. But in terms of timescales, we would be in that footprint, which is the northern half of the car park, for around about 7 to 9 months in 1 year. And that's it, that we wouldn't be there afterwards. Once we're finished, having occupied it for that section, that is what would be left. Unfortunately, you can't quite see the difference. The orange dot is below ground. In the middle of it, there is a very small blue dot. That is a shaft cover, as you saw on one of Connor's slides. That is all that would be left at the end, and the whole car park would return to its current use. We will need to engage with the landowner, the business owners, to work out how this is going to affect their businesses. But in terms of jobs, we would not be looking to affect jobs. That is not the point of using the site. So we're reviewing the comments and feedback on that at the moment. And in terms of designing that site up, that is the next step for the next 4 to 6 months. So, consultation.
And obviously, it's not set in stone that is the location that work would happen. We're still in the consultation period. We've still got investigation works to carry out. So we're just sort of using that as an example of where it may happen. In terms of your question, representative from Solar, we are not in a position to answer that question, but in terms of the percentage and when that will be available, as mentioned already this evening, that will be available later this year, approximately the summer.
If I take the...
Yeah, sorry, can I just come back on? I have it on reasonably good authority that the owners of that car park, I believe is the National Cobalt Pension Scheme, are going to push back heavily and fight you for that. If they do that, what a plan B question again, what is plan B? Because I suspect they'll take you to court on this and you could well lose.
Hopefully you can see that. So we looked at 4 sites. The reason we've got a site here is to construct the pipeline. We can only go a certain distance before we have to have a shaft to manage issues such as health and safety during construction, and also reset.
We understand why you need a shaft. The question's where.
So we've looked at 4 sites to try to work out where to put that shaft. It's one of the most important shafts we've got as we come off Mogden Sewage Works. We've selected the northern one in the car park at the moment, which is option 2, because we don't have information around the build of the retail unit. Are they piled or are they not? If they're not piled, it may be we can use options 3 or option 4. It really depends on the information we get from the landowner again, the company you've mentioned. It's something we'll be seeking to find out with them. How is that building constructed? As for alternative plan B, there is a site on the reverse side of the retail unit that we've appraised. There are issues. It is close to residential units, closer to residential units, which is a concern to us. But it's about balancing. We have to come off Mogden and have a shaft quite quickly to allow the alignment to shape up and head south to the river at Teddington. So those are the 3 sites we have on the table. Our preference at present is option 2. But that is not to say we have ruled out the others, and we're looking at the facts and the information, and feedback such as what you've just said there will be critical as part of that process. But I don't expect us to have made a clear decision until we're well into the summer or beyond, because there's a lot of information to get through, not least that kind of feedback.
Coming to finish, sorry, taking too many bites of the cherry here, but coming to my colleague's point, that's a critical part of the consultation that we want to have, particularly with the residents in that immediate area. So it's not just, I mean, you call them housing units, we call them homes, but it's where people live. So they really do need to understand what that means. Okay?
So if you want me to pick up the other 2 questions as I recall them. I believe one was about when will we be giving more detail in terms of location, roads, etc. There is a report which I think we can make available a web link to yourselves to share, perhaps in minutes, I'm not sure, but we do have a detailed report on our project webpage which sets out each site, its location, and the issues that we've identified that we believe are key to that site. We have looked at issues such as how we impact upon areas of open space, and we know there are concerns, and we're looking at the feedback that will come through the consultation process. The next step will be to draw a view as to which ones to continue to take forward and how we can manage those impacts. And we don't quite have that answer just yet. We do have information on plans and we do have information in documents, but it won't tell you how would X number of lorries be managed. That is the next step. That is the job for this year for us to work on as we go through the next 12 months. I think the last question I can recall is why not direct from Mogden to
Fulham,
to the Thamesley Tunnel? So one of the other factors we're working with are regulated provisions that direct how water can be abstracted or obtained through groundwater abstraction and stored prior to treatment for use as drinking water. It is part of ensuring that water is wholesome, but also that it's free of any invasive species. There are other factors as well. It's not my area of expertise, but what I would say is those regulations dictate that we cannot directly put the tertiary treated water into the existing freshwater assets that are feeding the reservoir system. It's one of the factors that it's explained in our consultation material, but under those regulations, we can't simply take that water from Mogden, having tertiary treated it, and put it into the Thamesley Tunnel. There needs to be what's called a buffer, or something which is in between the two, and that is us putting the water in the river and abstracting from the river the river water that will go into Thamesley Tunnel. That is the way the regulations control what we do. In the same way as we can't put it directly into a reservoir either from that tertiary treatment facility. That is where we are at present. So as a result, we have this what we call a take and put scheme, which is we would take 75 megalitres from the River Thames and balance that with the recycled water, which we cannot put in Thamesley Tunnel under regulations, but we'll balance the river flow by having that discharged at the same time as we need to abstract from that point on the river. and that's part of the basis for the scheme.
It was just to cover off one final question, which was the member of the audience that asked about the impacts on Moormead specifically, and just to reassure you that we are engaging with the local schools, primary schools there that use that for their PE lessons, as well as the cricket club and the haven't engaged with the football. Oh yeah, we have actually, Moormead Football Club. We did that on the back of the Richmond conversation. So we're engaging with them and we're understanding how they use it, when they use it, and how we can try and work together to reduce any impacts if we have to use that site.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, I think we've worked that out. It's the way that they deal with it. The other thing, one final thing from me is you talk about putting things online. Not everybody's online. We'd like stuff down at Isleworth Library and any other library close by. I can't remember if they've still got any in Richmond. But if we'd like paper copies too for a lot of our residents.
Absolutely, we'll do that.
Yeah, and probably even a newsletter to go around the neighbouring wards, a regular update, a bulletin. If you do go ahead with it, or for your next consultations, make sure they go out to all of Isleworth Ward, and I'm sure the people from Richmond will find a way of telling you what they want. All right, look, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much, those of you in the audience who asked questions. I'm sorry, this is a brief introduction, as I said. We've got plenty more stuff to be doing tonight, but no doubt it'll run until 2027 or 2030, if at all. Thank you very much. Right, we've got the third item on the agenda, Hounslow's local list update. We're currently, as a local authority, reviewing, adding to mainly list of locally listed buildings. They're not the fully listed buildings from the Department of whoever lists them now. It used to be Department of Environment. But we've got the Director of Planning and Buildings here, Vincent Lacavara. He's been here before on other matters. You've got, well, they've taken up a bit more time than we should have, but if you, quick whistle stop through and then some questions from people, Vincent, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And hello, everyone. So I'm here to talk about the review of the local heritage list. I'll keep it as brief as possible, so there's time for questions and conscious of time in the agenda as well. So just some examples of some of the locally listed buildings in the area. So we've got Hounslow South Shopping Parade on Heath Road and Central Avenue on the current local list. We've got some street signs in the Isleworth area that are already on our local heritage list. And there's lots of other examples. I'll go through a few in a minute. But for those of you who don't know what the local list is, so this is about local heritage. Councillor Lukey has referred to statutory listed buildings. So there's a whole set of buildings that are listed through the statutory process, so they have full statutory protection. Local planning authorities are encouraged to establish local lists of local heritage that has local heritage significance. And we have a local list in Hounslow. The latest one was adopted in 2019, so that's positive, and I know had a lot of input from residents and communities in the production of that. So what we're embarking on at the moment is an update to that existing local list to make sure that any other heritage assets that the community are aware of, that there's that opportunity to refresh the list, update it with any new heritage assets, but also to remove any that maybe have been lost in the interim. But it's basically about valuing local heritage, local culture, and those assets that make a contribution to local character, distinctiveness and the historic environment. It is all about significance, heritage significance, and we'll go on a little bit to what that's all about. So buildings that make their way onto the national list, that are statutory listed, have a high degree of heritage significance that warrants their inclusion on that list. We're talking about local heritage significance, so significance may be related to, and there's a list there, architectural, archaeological, artistic, cultural, custom-based, and we also talk about intangible significance, so that could be, for instance, it could be an event that happened, a historic event that happened in a particular place, or it could be a local custom. I don't know if we've got any locally, but the sorts of things that have been listed elsewhere that are of intangible benefit are of significance are things like folk songs or particular customs that a particular place might have. So there's quite a wide definition of what heritage is. So the existing local list, as I said, was last updated in 2019. That's the front cover of the document there. And some of the inclusions on the local list that are of relevance to this particular area, I've already referred to the shopping parade. We've also got the Royal Oak pub, the Isleworth Library, Cattle Trough on Memorial Square, 1 Osterley Road, which is a Victorian villa, Wick Farm Barn, and then there's obviously the local list that covers the whole borough as well. So we're encouraging you to, members of the public, to nominate buildings, heritage assets, items that you think are of local significance that aren't already on the list. Consultation is live at the moment and runs until the 31st of March. There is information on the website. If you can, the paper, it's included in the papers for this evening. There's a QR code that you can scan. You can email the team, get in touch with the council, and we'll consider all of the nominations that are put forward as part of this process. And they will be assessed against criteria that are included in the documentation online, but was also covered in the Cabinet report that we took in December last year. But they basically go through that list of different types of significance, so architectural significance, archaeological, etc. Encourage people to submit. We're happy to look at any nominations that we get from the community, and I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have this evening. Thank you, Chair. Try to keep it brief.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Yeah, thank you. Just on the closing date, we've got the 31st of March there. But if you receive any a week or two later, you'll be all right.
Absolutely.
You're not going to rip them up, are you?
No.
All the envelopes.
We'll have a job to do to get through all of the nominations we get. So if it's just beyond the 31st of March, it's not the end of the world.
Okay, and I saw the leaflet down at Osterley Library the other day. So if people want to write in, they could also write into the planning department at the council, can't they?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from councillors on this? Well, and any questions from? Yeah, lovely. Okay, Tim, Christine, gentleman there. I don't know your name. A lady at the back there, and Peter over there. Good to see you again, Peter. Tim. Yeah, Mike. Let's have the mic. Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Tim Henderson from Isleworth. Just wondering, how do we access the list, the 2019 list? If we go to that website, will we be able to find it?
Yes, so the existing local list is on the council website. I think there's conservation pages on the council's website, so you're able to see it there.
If I go to that web link, will it direct me to it?
It will be on that list. That web link is a link to the consultation site. So I'm not sure that it will take you to the actual existing local list. Does it? Yeah, I've already looked. So yes, it does. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you, Tim. You know who's talking? Oh, that gentleman, and then we'll pass. All right, then Christine.
Hi, Nigel Leakey from Isleworth. Just pure ignorance here. As a property owner, and I'm curious because one of those properties I used to live in, what are the impacts on the property owner in terms of the disadvantages and pros and cons?
So probably should have mentioned this in the introduction, but the difference, really the main difference between a statutory listed building and a building on the local list is that if it's there's a higher test in terms of a statutory listed building. For instance, if you wanted to demolish or do significant work to a listed building, you have to go through a listed building application process, and there's a higher bar in terms of the work that can be consented. A building being included on the local list means that it's a material consideration as part of a planning application, but it doesn't provide the same level of protection that it would be if it was on a statutory list. So it's a consideration. If a building owner were to make a planning application, the fact that it's on the local list would be a consideration alongside others as part of that planning application process.
Thank you. Mike for Christine, and then the lady at the back. Yeah. All right. Go on. Go on, lady at the back, and then Christine. Sorry, Christine, we're losing you here.
Hi, Fran Palmer. I live in Isleworth. I just wondered, is Isleworth Station currently on the list? And if not, I think, it's the first impression you have if you arrive by train. It could be a nice Victorian building. And also, I think you just said the protections are lower when it's a local listing, but even so, I think Network Rail or whoever owns that station has neglected it over many years. I think there have been fires in the building, and I think they're just leaving it to go to rack and ruin.
Yeah, so I think it is on the local list at present. I would just repeat what I said before, that the level of protection is less, but obviously by putting it on the list, it provides us more leverage in discussions with building owners around improving those. And then, for instance, if any planning applications made where they want to make changes, then it's leverage for the local planning authority to be able to negotiate improvements and enhancements to that heritage asset. So it definitely is a real benefit to a building being on the local list.
Just on Isleworth Station, we've got the new lifts that are being worked on at the moment, just being tested. The lift at the back there is behind the wrought iron gates there that have been there for a long time. It used to be the exit to a footpath going down to St John's Road. Now we've managed with using this locally listed influence to protect them, to keep them, and even though they'll be open now, but they'll be the gate at the back there will be pinned against the wall. So we're not losing it, but we've got some other ideas on Isleworth Station that's they'll be consulting on in the next few months with money from South Western Railway. Right. Then we got come back to Chrissy, and then there's a gentleman with a hand up at the back. Yep.
Is this working? Yeah.
It is working.
Sorry, threefold question, but I think they're both quite simple. I found it very confusing that the Isleworth section, all the numbers had changed from last time. I think it'd be helpful if you could be consistent, even if you have to take something off, to perhaps leave a blank rather than changing the numbers. And on taking people off, I see you highlighted Isleworth Library. I mean, it used to be a beautiful Art Deco standalone building with a sun deck on the top. It's now amalgamated with the leisure centre, and during the last 2 or 3 years, they have added all those dreadful heat pumps. It looks awful. I think it should come off the list. It's not a local heritage anymore. It just looks appalling. And my last question, which I hope you can answer, I've gone rather over the top on my list that I'm going to put in, for which apologies. How do I get it to you? Will you accept it on a memory stick, or have I got to sort of email them to you three at a time and I'll be there forever?
I'm I'll answer those in turn. I'll start with the last one. I'm not sure we could accept a memory stick. I know we've got my colleague from IT here who would probably kick me for accepting a memory stick, an unencrypted memory stick. I don't know if there's a way we could do that.
Use a mic, please, Nick.
So we normally can't accept unencrypted memory sticks, as they're called, but we can talk to you. That's how you want to do it, about ways we can get information to us, because there's other ways to do it, emailing as well. So I can
Thank
talk to
you, Nick.
Vincent about that.
Yeah. Otherwise, I was going to say emailing, or there's, even if it's on you want to print it out and give it to us in person. That's we can accept that. Okay. One way or another, we'll find a way. On the, there were two other points you made. Numbering, I'll take that away to the team that are working on it. So just make it as clear as possible and consistent as possible. Yeah. And then on buildings to, obviously, if you're putting forward buildings to remove from the list, we'll look at everything that we receive from members of the public, and the officers will be looking at whether, if that's something that's put to us, the test will be, has the significance, the reason for it being included in the first place been affected so much that would warrant taking it off. But yeah, we can look at that.
Thank you. And gentleman there with his hand up.
Hi, Dave Fairweather in Isleworth. I have to declare a vested interest. I tried to access the list. It involves you having to sign up for OneDrive in order to see it, which I don't currently have a sign up. Is this building listed? As one of the trustees, is it listed? It is.
This is
okay.
one,
In that case, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, good. Thank you. No more questions? Good. Oh, well, go on then. Oh, sorry, Peter, sorry. I didn't see, I forgot about you.
All right, everyone does. I'm not online, you see. I get forgotten. A couple of questions. One, I'm presuming Gillette Tower is, Gillette's is listed.
Grade 2 listed.
Yeah, if so, when is the scaffolding going to be removed and it get back to its former glory?
When they fix the clock. It was meant to be about a year ago, and it's probably sitting in some repair yard in Derby at the moment. Can I just say about the clock there, Peter? To run the clock, they've got to pay for it. Yeah, paying for electricity to run the clock. So I think they're waiting until they start redeveloping the place.
And the other thing is the home-based tower. Will that be listed? And if so, will it survive somehow the devastation of that area?
So the home base isn't listed or on the local list?
Because nationally it was considered quite an interesting building.
Yeah.
If you know.
There was an effort to list it about 3 years ago, and that failed.
Okay, so there's no intention to try and preserve it somehow?
No.
No.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vincent.
Pleasure, thank you.
Much appreciated, as always. Who have we got next? Yes, digital switchover and broadband in Hounslow. Where are you there? There you go. This is Nicholas McCarthy. He's our one of the heads of the IT at Hounslow Council, and this is something that's really crept up on us. But we had some questions at last but one area forum. Take it away, Nick.
Okay, so just an introduction. So I'm head of digital services, and what that means, I look after colleagues and councillors internally for laptops, all this. Closer, is that all right? Yeah. So I look after a lot of the internal IT services for the council. Part of the role and why I'm here is around broadband in Hounslow and what we call digital switchover. I'm not going to talk through these links, but there's some information here on what we're doing digital-wise in Hounslow at the moment, and there's some information on what we call digital inclusion commitment, and that's around where we're looking at. We've given out, I think it was over 1,000 free laptops last year to residents across the borough, looking at the tariffs you pay for your broadband as well, because the increase from BT this year is 7.9% from 1st of April if you're using broadband. but there's other ways of reducing that cost as well and still staying online. So what's the digital switchover? So between now and end of 2025, BT and Virgin and other national companies are switching off what's called the old analogue phone system, and you may have heard it called getting rid of copper in the ground, because for most of you, you'll have copper to the poles or to your house and all the way through, but what's moving is towards fibre, all the way into your home or to the local pole. What that means for you, if you're reliant on your phone lines at home and there's a power failure, there's no longer a central backup in the local telephone exchange. So if you are reliant on your phone lines at home at all for alarms, any of your friends are, if you're in a business, any of your alarms cease. Sorry, yeah. So this applies, so there's no central power supply. When there's a power failure in the area, the service is entirely reliant on the power you've got at your home. Now, if you are a vulnerable resident, as termed by the provider, there's a charge they've got to test your devices you use at home, and they've got to provide you with backups when there's a power failure as well. So there are processes in place. One thing to say, the switchover is free. So the only people who contact you about this is your service provider, so whoever you pay your bill to. The council won't contact you directly about your changeover. So if you hear from anybody else about the changeover, other than the people you pay your bill to, then exercise caution at all times with this. If you are vulnerable, you need to inform your communications provider, be that BT, Virgin, Sky, TalkTalk, all the other operators out there. But they've all got a process in place now for putting the right safeguards in place. In terms of the council, for our telecare devices, Link Line, the team are about, I think it's 54% of the way through swapping out the pendants, alarms people press at home as well. So that work's underway. The difficulty is this is between now and end of 2025. There's no one date. Some people have used the switch off of the old TV, the old analogue TV, but that was one single date across the UK. This date could be any date between now and end of 2025, but the operators will write to you directly about this as well. So the key takeaway is around the fact that when there's a power failure, you need to make sure you're aware of what the backups are at your home. The phone line will no longer work, so it will connect to what we call the router or other devices from BT or Virgin. Some people call it hubs, other names out there as well. And it's property by property. So it could be today my house is done, the next day Councillor Bruce's house is done. There's no necessarily it's street by street. It depends on how the providers do it, and they're all doing it slightly differently because there's 400 plus providers who can provide the service in the UK. I'll take some questions at the end. I've tried to keep this as brief as possible, given the time. In terms of broadband in Hounslow, so this is purely just purely the broadband, so both fibre or any other type of broadband. Fibre, I call it full broadband, but that's the best possible broadband you can get. So that's a cable coming straight from what we call the exchange, straight into your home, and that gives you the best possible service with the providers. In terms of council flats, 85% have that full broadband in already, and BT and others are working on getting that percentage up, because sometimes to some council flats the bill costs are very high, so it takes longer to plan in terms of street works, and the cost per premise can be very high as well. So it's not within instances where they've had to close down, they've had to ask to close down bus lanes. So they then depend on TfL, for example, giving permission to close down those bus lanes to put the services in. So in terms of what we've been doing, so full broadband was just over 10% in 2021. It's now up to 46%. One thing to take away in Hounslow is the vast majority of homes can get decent broadband there's a measure from Ofcom. Locally here, roughly, now the way Ofcom do it, their data isn't exactly the same as the wards local to the council. But locally, only 0.3% can't receive decent broadband. And just to say, some people don't want or need broadband, which is fine as well, but it's for those who do need or want it. But the average is 8.7% locally aren't taking out that service. So people are saying that they want better broadband, there's a coverage there, but people aren't always taking up the services. And again, that could be because people just don't want or need the broadband in their home, which is just fine as well. Some people don't like to be on social media or use internet at all, which is, fine as well. These are, again, these speeds are included just for some perspective. Again, the ward names are Ofcom defined. They're not the local ones you'll know locally. So the Ofcom data takes a while to catch up with what the local wards are. And this to give you an idea of speed increase. So you can see in there, so there's been over 50% speed increase in the last 2 years. And you can see the lines receiving decent broadband has gone up at that time as well. But clearly there's still a gap between people who can receive broadband and people who actually take it up at the same time as well. If anybody's got any specific query about there, I've got a list of all the postcodes and the operators about what you can get at which property. If you do want to catch me at the end, I can just tell you if you've got any queries on, you've got poor broadband at home and want to know if you can get decent broadband, I'm happy to, with your postcodes, to tell you what's available currently. And I've put some links in there as well to some government websites and also to Ofcom as well around what the protections are for customers during the migration to digital landlines. So apologies for sound issues, but that's all I had on that. So it's over to you if there's any questions you want to ask.
Yeah, thank you. Any councillors' questions? Good. We've got Martin, then John Cooper, and gentleman at the back there, and Barbara here. So if you be brief, and we'll get the answers to you.
Yeah, very quickly. I currently have a steam-driven twisted pair telephone. Are you telling me that by the end of 2025, BT will have come in and changed it for something else?
Yeah, we'll get Nick to answer at the end there. All right, John Cooper, then the fella at the back there.
Will you be sure
Use a mic, John.
Will you be sure to contact our new older people's champion, whose job it is to make sure that we know about all changes which are liable to disadvantage older, vulnerable people? In particular, people whose life literally may depend on the use of a copper-based landline telephone. And secondly, what rebate should we expect from our suppliers, like BT, when we have to spend money changing or paying for new speech dialer contraptions so that our voice burglar alarms will reach people who can look after our unfortunate situations? Thank you.
The gentleman at the back there with his hand up.
Hi, Mark Simmons from Isleworth. Something that's always really disappointed me about the whole area is our broadband speed. At the present moment, we believe the fastest is Virgin Media, which has more problems than I've ever known. Why can't we get anything like as fast like they have in Hayes? My brother lives in Hayes, to that area. They can get nearly 1 gigabyte of broadband through copper, not relying on cable. I just wondered why Hounslow hasn't done it. That's just my question, really, because I run a business and I really rely on broadband. That's all.
Okay, thanks. Did anyone else have that? Barbara here, and then Hilary there.
I just want to add to John's question. This is a huge and very scary change. And when the digital television came in, they had to come and retune. And so at least there was some communication. This is happening by hearsay. There are sort of no places that people can go. And I attended a PCN meeting the other night, and I was astonished that patients knew nothing about
what the GPs are doing. How are you making sure that people know what this is and know where to go if they feel threatened by the companies that come and try to service them? It is a big, scary change.
Thank you. And then finally, Hilary. Use a mic, please, H.
Oh, sorry. I really was going to say, but you put it so much better than I could have done, Barbara, what she said, which is the importance of ensuring that people know that they need to know. Because we know here, but we're a small percentage of the number of people living in the area. We desperately need a series of planned meetings by people who will show those of us who are elderly how to go about all these changes that are coming up. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'll speak for the older people's champion. There's Councillor Shivraj Garawal, our lead on communities at Hounslow Council. I've spoken to him about this, and he's met with John Cooper as well. I do think we do need some. If anybody gets anything, the same thing across the borough, it'll be Hounslow Matters. So if we can start maybe putting things through that, and if any correspondence to the housing, to housing tenants as well. So who's here from communications tonight? LBH Communications. I saw someone earlier. But anyway, let's take that back to them, and also Nick and Christopher. You'll pick up on it. I think we're going to require a regular, information stream. I do believe that's what we're getting from here. So there was the questions on BT changing items, BT informing people with vital equipment at home, and speed. How can we up the speeds, and how patients will be able to use critical items in the house. Let me just say, the council does not provide broadband. We're not a broadband organisation. So if you want it faster, then there'll be other ways that we can perhaps lobby. But we've got the information though. Sorry, Nick.
I can't forget the chat about the phone. I'll speak to that afterwards. But in general, older phones may not work with the new BT equipment. If I have a chat with you afterwards about the Steam phone. Sorry, yeah. The chat with the Steam, with the older phone, that may not work with new equipment. So I can certainly have a chat with you afterwards to double check if that's true or not, or see if I can confirm for you or not. It will depend on what it is and how it connects. It will just depend. I can have a chat with you afterwards if that's okay. On the Older People's Champion, I think you've covered it, but I know there's also an equalities group that we've had a presentation from Openreach at, I think it was back in July this year, so there's other comms going on there. Funny enough, I've got a copy of the magazine that goes out in Hillingdon area, sorry to bring up Hillingdon here, but it's a very good article that we'll look to use as a model possibly for Hounslow Matters as well, because it lays it out very, very well what the issues are. The next bit was around, if I take the speeds. So again, the chap who asked about speeds, I can have a look at your specific postcode and
the fastest broadband provider is just Virgin.
Yeah.
And I've seen loads of companies that do much faster, don't have to have cable, that are out there. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was just, I just feel it's a bit unfair that other boroughs get it and we don't. That's all.
No, it's the way it works is Openreach roll out by what's called exchange areas, and in Hounslow there's 15 different exchanges that serve Hounslow as a whole. Some believe there's one down in Molesey. There's all because the way the exchanges were set up weren't based on borough boundaries. In terms of, there's some areas that Openreach haven't got a specific plan for yet. We are lobbying Openreach to increase their investment. But to give you an idea, some of their investment per home is averages £400 per home. So their current plans for the year is around 45,000 in the next 2 years. In terms of in-house, there's 100,000 properties, so the investment needed is huge, but there's no specific, for fibre in this specific area, there's no specific plan from Openreach yet, but certainly Virgin are around. But I can have a chat with you about your options as well, because I've got some more information from a business website around specific postcodes, if you want to just check a bit more as well. Yeah, happy to take that forward. In terms of, to take the doctors, the bit about social care, because that's important. I don't want to forget that. If I forget any others, I'll come back to you at the end or provide a response. So when a home gets visited, the communications provider is under a duty to make sure everything works that you've got there. So if the engineer is not meant to switch anybody over to the new system until it's confirmed everything's working in each individual home. There were some, I think some other comms companies had more problems than others, so there was a pause to the rollout for a period of time, but it's now recently restarted, but there's actually a charter they've all signed up to as well. So I can provide a link to that charter in the follow-up notes as well. But basically the comms provider, when they come to you, it's free of charge, the changeover. So again, there's no charge from BT for your specific provider. If you're using burglar alarms and other similar lines like we're having to do as a council, in some cases there are some changeover fees which aren't covered by BT, but there's some very specific things. Some things will work with the new system because it's still a phone line at the end of the day. This is not all going digital, so it's still you pick up the phone, you press your digits, you make a call. It's not all going online, it's still a phone line, albeit when the power goes off, you've got to make sure you've got backups in place, so it's still a phone line for all intents and purposes. Have I answered all the questions?
One more question from the gentleman at the back. Be brief, please.
Thank you. Will from Friends of Moormead Park. I'm actually the chair for that.
And you live in the borough of Richmond, so be extra brief.
I want to just distinguish between the good people of Thames Water who keep the system running. The issue that this campaign has is with the proposal. My question is to everybody here, based on what you heard from Thames Water.
Oh, hang on. Hang on. Take the mic off him. We've been through that. If you want to catch people at the end on their way out, by all means,
I was just asking for a show of hands as to who has doubts about Thames Water.
We all have doubts about Thames Water, whether it's affecting us or not. And any privately owned utility by hedge funds, we're all concerned. Yeah, thank you. Right, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Nick.
One more bit just to add. In terms of comms, the GLA has been speaking to Openreach and others in the government about a national campaign. As yet, there's no national campaign planned. Went to a meeting 2 weeks ago with other London boroughs as well, London Fire Brigade and others. And apparently there might be a comms campaign of some sort later in the year, particularly around alarms at home, but there's not going to be one national campaign. So there's still work, because Openreach at the moment don't want to undertake a national campaign, and there's no push from government yet to do that as well. So it's part of some ongoing lobbying from the GLA particularly to get them to, because clearly it's compared to the TV change, which just meant you couldn't necessarily watch TV as you used to in your bedroom or elsewhere in the house. As you say, these alarms which are for people are life and limb services as well. So we're also doing some work. Just one last thing to mention, Councillor, that's okay. In terms of the link line service we provide, we're going through what's called data sharing agreements with BT and other operators. And that means they'll be identified. So people who use our link line services, they'll know they're registered as link line services. So what that should mean when an engineer turns up, they already know you're a vulnerable resident and you've got stuff that needs to be tested before they sign off for service. So sorry I wasn't speaking to the mic all the time, but it's always a difficult one, these. So, yeah.
Look, much appreciated. It's a good... What now? What? He said he'd have a chat with you on the way out.
Sorry, I'll have a chat with you at the way out, that's okay, yeah. Right, I'll have a chat with you at the way out, sorry. Yeah. I'll get there eventually with the microphone. Yeah.
Right, thank you very much. If you clap Thames Water, you ought to clap this fella as well. But we'll keep the information flowing. I think that's what the message will be now. Right. So we are running a bit bit slow. We come to item 5, open forum for questions from the public. Now, some people have already submitted questions, and we'll go through them. Which ones should we do? The ones that are least boring.
So that one,
Yeah.
That one, so it's that one she needs.
Right. Okay. So, question 2. Question from Christine Dywell. Why does the council have 2 Hounslow Safer Neighbourhood boards? One is published on LBH website with defined members and terms of reference agreed in 2014. The second, not recorded, with different chair, board members indeterminate at different terms of reference, which states members are excluded if missing 3 out of 4 meetings, while stipulating chairs of police safer neighbourhood team panels are excluded from attending 3 out of 4 meetings a year. Is this considered workable? So a response from our community safety people, LBH community safety people. There is only one Saferhood Neighbourhood Board. The Saferhood Neighbourhood Board is a MOPAC, Mayor's Office of Policing and Crime, led initiative and acts as a forum to scrutinise the performance of the Metropolitan Police at local level. The role of the council is to provide administrative support to the independent chair of the Safer Neighbourhood Board, Mariah Kosonovic. The SNB, formerly Safer Neighbourhood Board, resorted in October 2023 with a new chair and refreshed terms of reference after a gap in activity due to previous chair leaving the role and difficulties with recruitment to the chair's position. All right, shoot me in a minute. The terms of reference have been developed to reflect the overall aims of the board as set out by MOPAC. Safer Neighbourhood Board meetings, venues will rotate throughout the borough with meetings taking place in each cluster per quarter. The Hounslow Safer Neighbourhood Board members chose to take this approach in order to ensure that all areas of the borough are given ample opportunities to contribute to the function of the Safer Neighbourhood Board, as well as to ensure ward-specific issues are given sufficient opportunity to be raised and discussed. Look, can I leave it at that? The thing is, who knows about safer neighbourhood panels? We have one in each ward. We have a very good one in Osterley and Spring Grove ward. We have a much improved one in Isleworth ward, and you've got a developing one in Hounslow South ward. I think they are your closest. Ways of communicating with the local police, and I would recommend people get involved with those and be street reps. Christine, you got your hand up. Go on then, very briefly.
Hang on, wait for the mic.
Sorry, wait for the mic. Yeah, go on.
Speak to sensibly about this. It's no good saying to me there's only one board, when on your website you cite a totally different board to the one you've just mentioned.
Okay, all right.
A, the website needs updating, and B, the terms of reference that have been dished out are, quite frankly, a load of codswallop. You've got a board of 100 people, according to who they say it comprises. Who can I speak to in the council that can be sensible about it?
Okay, all right. Look, Christopher, will you put Christine in touch with Parmjit Chadha, Head of Community Safety, please? And then if she needs anyone to accompany her, I can do that if need be. Is that okay? All right. Is that okay, Christine? Well, I've just mentioned Parmjit's name. She's Head of Community Safety at the council. Right, what's the Right, this one's the council's future asset strategy from Mr. Andy Roper on behalf of the Isleworth Society. The council is reviewing its community buildings in each ward. 11 premises have been identified in Isleworth, plus premises in the 2 other wards. There was an update report on the review in the cabinet in March. Pretty amazingly, the council will spend £1 million just on the review in 2024-25, including a project manager plus private consultants. Is this in addition to the 500,000 for 2023-24 in the previous Cabinet report last June? The review will be split into different parts of the borough. Worryingly, all other areas have virtually the same bland wording, but in Isleworth, the Cabinet report specifically says there is an opportunity for integration of the service offer from a smaller number of sites. More positively, there will be a separate review in Ivy Bridge, which the report says offers opportunities for an extended community offer community facilities. Will councillors give a commitment that in the review, that if the review proposes major changes or disposals of community assets in any of the 3 wards, there will be a full discussion at the area forum before any final decisions are made? So I've got an answer from Halima Khawaja, Senior Housing Development and Supply Officer. The future proposals for any future assets will be an outcome that will come through the asset review process as outlined within the strategy. When there is clarity on the options across the borough, there will be local engagement with the residents, external stakeholders and members, which will likely include attending events. An engagement plan will be developed for the assets located in Isleworth and Ivy Bridge clusters, reviewed in due course. All right. Tom Bruce, you're leading on this. Yeah, go on then, briefly, thanks.
Yeah, I'll try and be brief. I mean, this has taken a long time actually to get to this point, and I'm really happy, as I said at Cabinet, really excited that we're at this point now. About 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, we started the process, and at that point, the Cabinet report, even before I was the lead member for development and regen, said, we're going to do a 6 to 9 month process and look at some of our buildings and see where we get to, and hopefully it's taken a lot longer. There's much more complexity to it, and as I took over the brief, it was very clear that it was a bit piecemeal. There's a lot of different groups using lots of different buildings, lots of different conditions of the buildings, so we needed to really start again, survey the buildings internally, understand the process, understand the workings of the building and all of that for our internal, for our offices internally. And now what we've done, and the question asks, we're continuing the review. Actually, I'd just be clear, we have a strategy in place. That's what the Cabinet report has put forward and was accepted by Cabinet, that the strategy now be put in place for how we're going to move forward with assessing and looking at all the buildings we have. I mean, this is one of them. This is listed. There were a number that were talked about, locally listed, and this is one that was a number that were talked about earlier. And there are loads of different ways of, you could look at everything individually, you could lump them all together, you could split the borough in half, hundreds of different ways. It seemed the best approach was on a roughly geographical perspective. That's where people associate themselves with Isleworth, or they associate themselves with Chiswick, and then there are a variety of smaller areas within that. Ivy Bridge, for example, in Isleworth, or Duke's Meadows area in Chiswick. It's not exhaustive. It's not going to, other things will come up, and I'm sure we'll cluster some others together and look at that. But the basic clustering is where we're starting from, looking at those holistically as that geographical grouping. Then the key point in the strategy is about that consultation, about that engagement, making sure we are talking to people about the usage of them, because and what they would like to see, are the services in the right place, all of those things. Because what we know, and this is the principle of this strategy, what we know is the buildings are extremely well thought of and used in some respects, but others are not. And we have to be clear that the money, that your money, or taxpayers' money that comes into the council, however it gets there, is spent as best possible. And at the moment, I don't think I can say that and justify that on the buildings. Are they being maintained properly? Are they being used properly? Are they being used to their fullest? Are the services in the right place? It's all of those things. So this isn't a year this isn't a year thing. This isn't 2 years. It's going to be 5 years and probably longer. The first year is mapped out, looking at the places that we'll start, and then we'll go from there. But in answer to the last bit, absolutely everyone will be, I want everyone to be involved in that process. There will be, I'm very sure, some decisions that people will find scary and a bit concerning, and I'm absolutely sure I will have people telling me I've got things wrong, whoever my successor is in this role, that the council have got things wrong. But what we do need to be very clear about, that the principle is about using our assets as well as we possibly can, maximising their value, that it benefits everybody, that we're using them for their best possible use, and that we're making sure that people are getting the services in the areas that they want, and that these buildings are being looked after. I mean, this is a fantastic example. There are others that are not. So that's really the principle, and that's where I want to assure everybody that you are involved in this as well.
Thank you, Tom. Second question from Andy Roper. Community hubs. The council has opened community hubs to bring services closer to local people in Feltham, Hounslow and Brentford, and is planning a hub in Cranford. Are any discussions taking place regarding a community hub covering Isleworth and Hounslow South? If so, can consultation take place via the area forum regarding potential locations and services to be provided? Current answer from Halima Kawaja again. Following the successful delivery of the borough's first Pathfinder community hubs, the council is drawing up a proposal to deliver them borough-wide. Community hubs will host services where residents live and work by making better use of council buildings and enhancing the way the council and its partners connect with and support residents. These proposals are subject to a decision by the council's cabinet in May. If those plans are agreed, the council will work with ward members, partner organisations and local residents to design the hub in each area. This will be shared at the area forums and residents will have the opportunity to give their feedback. Straightforward answer, I think. Yeah, good. Right, is Mr. Ken O'Connell here? Good, we can curtail his question because it's quite a long one. He might be watching it later on. Sorry? We can send him a response, but it's been issued to the area forum. I'll be brief. I have to read it out. I'd like to know if the council has any plans to resolve what has become an ever-increasing issue concerning traffic flow both along Chiswick High Road up to Stamford Brook bus station and from Kew Bridge, the area for which the council has oversight. He mentions a bus lane, he mentions a bike lane, and cars queuing, examples of journeys. His question, as a council resident, are there any plans in place to improve this issue in the short, mid and longer term, given detrimental impact on the environment of exhaust from idling vehicles along this route? Number of people using, depending on buses, an undoubted rise as more people move into apartments in Brentford. So this is a bit more along the route in Chiswick. So response from Paul Robinson, bus passenger journey times are monitored by Transport for London. The traffic signals along the 267 network are owned and maintained by TfL, and any bus priority measure integrated into the signal infrastructure is something TfL would be responsible. I think that's a brief answer to an issue, but us councillors do take things up with TfL at various times on various routes if people raise that with us. So, but we will be printing the whole question and answer there on the minutes. And the finally, this is one for Councillor Stroud-Turp about the bridge by the Town Wharf Public House. Why has it been felt necessary to draft a case for this to be adopted by the council? I wrote to the owners early January, resulting in an immediate temporary repair to the bridge with an indication refurbishment will follow. Also tidying, replanting the integral planter to the bridge was undertaken at the same time. That was from Christine. John, anything to add to that? I know this is one of your local projects.
Yeah, thanks. First of all, I'm extremely grateful that someone's read our local project updates, and that's a bonus. Yeah, thanks very much, Christine. And as always, we're very grateful to folk like yourself who do take an interest in the local area and try to get involved and sorting it out. And you are right, it has had a temporary repair, but that repair is, I would say, shoddy at best. There's glue hanging out everywhere. They didn't tighten up all the deck boards. The friction boards are missing, and we've had a number of issues back that bridge is, first of all, it's not suitable for wheelchairs, it's not suitable for people with buggies. When it's wet, it becomes very slippy and dangerous, and the wood is physically rotting. So what we're not necessarily looking at adopting it, we're looking at what the practicalities might be of adopting it, so we can actually possibly get it replaced in the medium to short term with something that's much more usable. It's an integral part, for those of you who don't know, that particular bridge. It's by the Town Wharf. It's an integral part of the Thames footpath, the London Ring, and anyone who's trying to access it with a large buggy or in a wheelchair has to go the long route round, which is not ideal. People feel scared using it. I was talking to a couple the other day who were trying to come across it, and the gentleman was on crutches, supported by his wife, and he was too scared to go, so he had to go all the way round. So if the owners won't do something in the longer term, the result will be that the council might look at adopting that bridge and putting something in that's far more usable, far more practical, and open to a much wider range of users. So that's the background behind it, Christine. It's scoping out what we might do in the medium term.
Thank you, John. Can we move on from questions? John O'Brien, and then forgotten your name, but yeah, okay. John, and there's a hand went up at the back. If we can answer them tonight.
Thank you. I have a question about derelict land that's heavily fly-tipped. The council have the authority to order the owners to clear it. However, if there is no legal owner on the land registry, ownership reverts to the council. There seems to be no process for ordering the council to clean up its own mess. Is this possible? Councillor Smith and I have both tried to take one area and get it fixed, and our inquiries just end up in a black hole going nowhere.
That isn't true. It does take time, but we are working on it, and there are, I can't say there's plans yet, but there are people looking into what can be done, and it will take time because it will cost a lot of money, but it is being planned and worked on.
Thank you.
You don't know what bit of land it is, do you? But I'm not going to tell you. That's all right. That's all right. It's a bit off Wharton Road that goes back towards the towards waterworks there. Right, who was next? Gentleman there again.
Yeah, I moved to Hounslow Borough as it was a more affordable borough, and my council tax was £1,000, the equivalent of 9% of the state pension. I've just, like everyone else, received this year's council tax bill, and it continues to go up by 5% per year. So in 14 years, it's doubled to £2,000 by 2026. This is the equivalent of now 21% of the state pension. I would like to know if this is the intention of the council to continue this rate of increase, because by 2040 it will be £4,000, which will then be 35% equivalent of the state pension. This is clearly unsustainable. And what is the council going to do to stop this?
All right. I mean, you know, when I first moved here, I think I was paying about £300 a year. We've got 3 cabinet members here, but I'm going to pass it over to Councillor Tom Bruce.
Happy to try and answer. I mean, I do understand. We do understand. Council tax is a very emotive issue. Whether you believe in high taxation, low taxation, whatever the situation, my personal view and the view generally in the Labour Party, the Labour group, council tax in general is quite a progressive tax because it's a very tight banding. It means you have very inflexible ability to, very inflexible. You're not able to be flexible within the bandings and able to be more progressive about how you spread out the load and the need across the different categories, as well as, you know, hugely historic. I was talking John earlier about this, hugely historic figures on house prices and all those kind of things. We have had to raise council tax in the most recent years. We have had years where we've frozen it, in fact 2 years where we reduced it. Which we were delighted to be able to do. And you're looking questioning 2014, 15, 16, something like that, where we reduced it for a couple of years. The national government have reduced our money year on year on year on year, and basically tell us, well, you have the ability to raise more money. It's through council tax. That's where you can get your money back. That's basically what the national government say. Now, I'm not saying any change of government, a Labour government, will be able to deal with that, because they will be left a complete mess. And there are huge difficulties that they will have to deal with economically, nationally, and that's going to filter down, or there'll be difficulty in filtering any changes down into local government. And I suspect we will be in a position where we'll have to make some difficult decisions going forward. Principle is we wouldn't and don't want to raise it any more than we need to do, but we are left with, at this moment in time, no choice to do that. I can't say what's going to be in the next year. The national government, this Tory national government, continue to only give us a settlement year on year on year. One change I hope the Labour government do give is a much more long-term settlement, a long-term outlook, which means we can plan any rises much more in a long-term way. We could say none this year, a bit next year, that kind of thing. We have no ability to do any of those things. So I appreciate it's an emotive issue. It's never pleasant having to vote in Cabinet and Borough Council for a tax rise. Understand what you're saying about the rise from when you first came here to where we are now, but that's the situation we're in. And in order to ensure that the services we all require here, for children, for old people, people with various needs, in order to ensure they continue to be as good as they can be, we're left with no choice.
Councillor Salman Shaheen, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I first of all, I completely echo everything my Cabinet colleague, Councillor Bruce, said. To add to that, I would also point out that Hounslow has one of the most generous council tax support schemes in London. So those on the lowest incomes pay absolutely no council tax at all. We do have 100% exemption for those on the lowest incomes and benefits. I would also point out that if any council doesn't set a balanced budget, then we're automatically into a situation where there's a bonfire of public services, and I would never want to see that. You look at some of the councils across the country going bust right now because they haven't set prudent balanced budgets, because some have gone bankrupt. You are seeing widespread public services being closed and only the very basic services delivered to residents. And we are not in that situation. Hounslow is not about to go bankrupt. We do, as a result of the taxation policies we have pursued, we do have enough money to run our public services, and we did deliver a no-cuts budget in the last budget. So I think it is a very important balancing act that we have to achieve here, and council tax is part of that.
Thank you. Lady there, and then Danny. Yeah, all right. Give you the mic. Oh, it's all right. Hang on. Whoa. Get a mic. Matt, all right. Well, Matt, you got a mic? Pass it over, and we'll go to the lady. We'll go to the lady that we just usurped there. But yeah, go on.
I live on the Woodlands estate, and I would like to know how we all pay the same. I believe we all pay the same council tax, band E. I'm one person, elderly person on my own in a 3-bedroom house. There are 2-bedroomed bungalows, up to 5-bedroomed houses, which obviously people have built on. Lots of multiple dwellings. What else is it? Multiple dwellings and yeah, lots of. I can't think what the other thing is. Lots of multiple dwellings. Yeah, and we're all paying the same council tax. Oh, I know what I was going to say. There's a lot of. They're not all owner-occupied now, and so some people have got other houses as well, and the others are, rented. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I know you. I think I've even got your address. But maybe one of your councillors can pick up and talk to them, because I don't think all the bands are this. Not everyone's on a band E on the Woodlands. I know that. And when houses do get extended, yeah. And the 2-bedroom properties, again, if they're the same as a 3-bedroom property, you can go for a review with the valuation tribunal. But Tom. I was going to say that, but they can go up and they, as well as go down if you look for a review, and not only yours might go up, but your neighbours might go up too, and they find out it was you. But I'm not saying that anyone's going to come for you. But you know, can we talk? Can you give advice at some point as the ward councillors in a newsletter or similar, or come and see them? Where do you do your surgeries? At Maswell Park Church. They do their surgeries when?
Last Saturday of the month.
Last Saturday of the month. At what time? 10 o'clock. There you go. All right. On the 30th, yeah. Okay. Is that all right? And then lady at the back there that had her hand up, and go. Yes,
hello,
please.
hi. My name is Judith Transon. I live in the Osterley and Spring Grove area. I have 3 questions, but they're quite short ones. I'll be brief. Question number 1 is, are there plans for introducing a traffic control and speed limitation on the Osterley Road, where it is very often cars are speeding? I have mentioned this to the police a number of times. I have seen police trying to measure the speed of the vehicles. There was a fatality there in 2020, if I remember, and nothing has changed. So that's my first question. Question number 2 ties in with the previous question around money. Obviously, we want to make sure that money is spent reasonably by the council. I wanted to understand what was the motivation behind the changes made to the Grove Road on the junction with College Road, as it was quite a significant amount of work and seemed a rather frivolous spending of the money, as I didn't see any need for the road narrowing at that place. And my last question is around fly tipping. I was wondering if the council has any serious plan of tackling that. I have recently reported fly tipping, I think it was about 3 months ago, on the side of the tracks near the Isleworth station. And aside from the fact that it's very difficult to actually choose the right way to report it, I received a very quick email from somebody from the council reprimanding me that I used the wrong way to report it, but they're going to fix it for me. But nothing happened. Fly tipping continues, the rubbish is still there, and I wanted to understand. This is a serious problem in Hounslow, I'm sure you know. Thank you.
Okay, I can answer you the last 2, and Councillor Chowdhury can answer you about traffic on Osterley Road and the traffic studies that have been taking place there. I can take them all right then. Right, so the first one. On Osterley Road, there are, the traffic team at the council has done surveys of traffic south of the Great West Road between Thornbury Road and Cyan Lane, and when we're waiting to hear from them on designs and proposals for improving traffic and reducing speeds there. And they've also done some surveys north of the Great West Road, on Jersey Road, down Thornbury Road. So that'll be coming up, and we're still awaiting a response on that as councillors. On the Grove Road and College Road water gardens feature that accompanies the narrowing, and that's a narrowing from nearly 30 metres to just under 15 metres. That junction there, which once there was a roundabout there, that's I think that costs about £80,000 as a change. I do know it has slowed traffic down, because I've sat there on the bench there at various times watching it. But let's see how that happens. Yeah, see what happens and what the improvements are there. But it's a route to the school, to Isleworth and Zion School. You live up at Academy Place, didn't you? Yeah. So it's a route to the school, and it is a means of road safety for young people. Sorry?
Can I just add to that? So school, Iceland Zion, were consulted as part of the change on that, as were the water councillors, and we met with residents a number of times because we weren't keen to change the island. We wanted to keep an island, which we thought was quite safe for people to cross, but the work that the transport team did showed us that the junction was not safe in its current state, with people crossing the road, particularly young people trying to get to school or back from school, including those going to the independent school where you've got younger primary children. It was not considered to be safe for them to cross that bigger gap that Tony mentioned. It's quite a wide gap. So that was the reasoning behind the changes.
That as well. Thank you. You are going to answer some. Hang on. And the final one, the tipping on the Isleworth embankment. I'm sorry you might have got short shrift from somebody at the council. The problem is that is not council land. The council is not responsible for the embankment there. I've had plenty of correspondence and seen much on social media. That land belongs to Network Rail, and Network Rail is inscrutably. As inscrutable as it is impenetrable, as it is a cash cow for private rail companies. But what we've done there, we've had, I think I've reported it 3 times at least, and it's been removed 3 times. You report it online, Network Rail online. That's how I report it. Recently, and when we did meet with Network Rail, about their rubbish embankment. You couldn't see it before. I don't think it happened much before when it had a wooden fence there. But you can see it now with the chain link fence. We have, at your expense, as ratepayers' expense, we've put a camera up now outside the pub, outside the bridge in, the Iron Bridge there, and it's watching. And hopefully we'll be able to work out who the culprit is and pass that information on to British Transport Police, who won't do anything without any videos. So that's the update on that. Is that okay, Judith? All right. So thank you for ceding. Gentleman over there who hasn't asked a question yet.
Kamal Shah, I live in Osterley. Quick question, just clarification on safety-related issue next to Osterley Station. The footpath that runs alongside from the dual carriageway to the back, Bassett Gardens, is that owned by the council or by the station, TfL? Because TfL staff have denied responsibility for it. There is overgrown vegetation, there is tipping there, and the lighting is very poor. It's unsafe for children, school kids, university kids to travel through that footpath. Are there any plans from the council to look into this?
We look into it regularly when we walk past there and we see all the rubbish. Report it to Hounslow, report it on Fix My Street. The footpath belongs to, is a responsibility of the council. The grass areas either side are TfL, but the Hounslow Highways will clean up the grass from time to time. And underneath that bush there, where it seems like somebody's just sleeping there and drinking large amounts of wine and leaves them there.
Just to follow up, I have put it on Fix My Street. Does anybody look at that?
I would hope so. If you find that they're not doing that, send your report to one of your ward councillors. What road do you live on?
I think Cranmore Avenue. Cranmore Avenue.
Cranmore Avenue. Councillor Chowdhury, Unser Chowdhury will pick it up as one of your ward councillors. But do write to her, yeah?
Okay.
Thank you. Who else? Danny. I've had you already. Danny Rybowski. Go on. Hang on.
Just a comment regarding the increase in the council tax. Although the council has maintained it to 4.99%, ultimately it's what the actual resident is paying. And the resident is paying more than 5% due to other levies.
Fair enough. Go on then. We're going to be here all night, you know that, but carry on. Yeah.
24% of the council tax goes to the GLA. And I feel I have no control over how that's used. And I would like the council here to give me some, or give us some sort of breakdown as to what value we are getting out of that 24% across the age group, particularly the aged and vulnerable. Thank you very much for that privilege of saying at the same time.
You're welcome. I'm just in my pocket. I've got an over 60s Oyster card, for example. Right. Look, who's not spoken? Look, you've had a couple of goes. Where? Up in the corner. Where? Go on then.
Hiya, Daniel Mann from
Danny.
Hiya. It's been touched on earlier, the traffic issue, especially around Zion Lane, Wood Lane, Spur Road, Twickenham Road. It's an absolute nightmare. And when the accident happened up at the Builders Merchant at the top of Zion Lane, there was just I didn't felt from Central Hounslow Council, there was no help at all. I know yourself and your other councillors did try and do something, but there just seems to be a real lack of help from Central Hounslow Council with the traffic. I've seen a number of near misses on Zion Lane. As soon as there's an accident further down, Zion Lane's blocked up, Spur Road's blocked up, and it's just a regular occurrence. I know there's other partners involved like the police and TfL, but I don't know if there's anything that can be done, and I just want to flag it, and thank you.
Happy to talk about that. That was tied up with insurance companies at when that crash was finally resolved.
No, I appreciate that. That was an insurance, but the problem was the traffic lights went out for a number of hours, and there was nothing from anyone, whether it was TfL, the police, the council themselves, and the traffic, and especially in that area, is getting progressively worse because of Sky, the two schools, the impending development at the Tesco Osterley, and it's just going to get worse and worse. And I just would like to flag it to the relevant stakeholders because,
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you for
flagging it. It's been going on for years, and and everything tends to be piecemeal. Lady there who's not asked a question yet.
I'm Noni Koval from the junction between Twickenham Road and Cleveland Road. This is just because we're talking about roads at the moment. Right outside our house is a Lime bike stand, and it's an absolute nightmare. And I know this has been talked about before at other meetings, but I asked for it to be taken away, and all the bikes disappeared, and we had a couple of months where there were no bikes, and it was absolutely wonderful. And just recently, they're all back, lying on the pavement, littering the place, making an absolute hazard for everybody. And yes, I believe the council is very satisfied with the Lime bike situation because it's been profitable. This is what I've heard. But it isn't profitable for us. And talking about council tax, I feel we should get a reduction in our council tax because it's absolutely an eyesore. And it's just where, if we need a mobility place for my husband, who has very, very poor mobility, and if we needed to have a place for him, for a car, a place, a disabled badge to be put, that would be exactly where we would need it. And it's just not available to us. So I'd just like to know if everybody thinks these Lime bikes are still a wonderful success, and if my husband and I, just like on our own, mind you, I know it's not, all the people in our road think it's absolutely dreadful and a nightmare, and it really brings down the whole feeling of the road, which is just opposite Redleys Park. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass it on to one of your ward councillors, Salman Shaheen, and he'll probably also tell you about the review that's going to take place.
Thank you very much for your question. Yeah, I mean, people have differing opinions on Lime bikes. You're certainly not the only resident, nor your husband, who has written in concerned about Lime bikes. There are also many people who are very passionately enthusiastic about Lime bikes. I know that. I mean, I have one station on my road. It seems to be quite well maintained and popular. But I also know that some of the Lime bikes are left in certain areas in a state of disarray. We do have we do have a contract with Lime in which any line bike that is parked illegally or parked outside the bays will result in a fine of the user. If you get repeat offenders, they will be banned from using the line bikes. Lime has also been working to fix the issue where line bikes were essentially stolen, bike-jacked, and ridden around and then dumped all over the place. Lime has been cracking down on that hack. However, overall, what I would say is that it's not about, first of all, I'd say it's not about profitability for the council. It is rather about the council trying to support modes of active travel so that more people use environmentally sustainable and also healthy routes to travel. I would also, though, say that this is in a trial phase, and should a majority of residents on your street be opposed to the line bike station there, we can look at reviewing it, and you wouldn't be the first people to get a line bike station removed from your street if you were opposed to it. So it can be done. It is a trial phase. Things can change. If you want to get, for example, a petition of your local residents together, we can absolutely look into that.
Look, I know people who've asked questions already. I'm going to ask you to put your hands down. But Justin over there, and that's it. What number are you at? What number are you? 126 Woodland Road. All right. Okay, all right, okay. Well, yeah,
I have requested a camera. I can't say that we'll get one, but I have requested it.
All right. Justin.
Hi. Yeah, hi, I'm Justin, live in Isleworth. Just a quick one on the line bikes. I'm not sure if you're aware that people have found a new way to hack them now. And yes, the alarm goes off, but they are able to ride them around again. Just to let you know about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry? Well, everything's very important, really. I mean, us getting out on time, this lady going back home because she's working late is important. So, look, thank you for your question time. If you want a question, drop us a line. Yeah. Drop us a line, we'll get your questions answered. Where do you live? What road are you on? What road are you on? Linkfield. Councillors there. Yeah? Oh, you're not going to write a councillor, all right. Okay, look, next, yes.
I was just going to say a quick one. If you wanted to flag any questions that you didn't get out tonight, please fill it at the back of the feedback forms, and we're happy to pass it over.
Feedback forms do get read and get addressed. Okay, right. Let's item 6, minutes of the meeting held on 3rd of November. Matters arising. Any comments on the meetings? Any matters arising? I've got none. Okay, thank you. Update on meeting with John Cooper held on 16th of February 2024. Mr. Cooper came up with something back in September, and he raised it at the committee about communicating with older people, and we did have a meeting at long last, and I hope you approved of the minutes. We've got the ward updates and action plans there on pages 42 to 48 for information, and I haven't had any notice of any other business. Thank you. Yeah. So that's about it. Apart from just saying, we've got. If you complete a feedback form from one of the colleagues at the back, there you go, and you get one of these free. I Heart Area Forums. Shame it's not got the borough logo on it, but we'll let you have that. But yeah, do complete the feedback forms. Whether you want one of these or not. Okay? Right. I think that's it. Thank you very much. Much appreciated your attendance, your contributions, and my colleagues here contributions. But collar us if you want to talk.